What if I told you that your greatest strength might be exactly what's holding you back? That the very qualities that make you exceptional could be triggering an ancient psychological mechanism designed to destroy you? Picture this. A brilliant student consistently outperforms their peers, only to find themselves socially isolated and deliberately excluded from group projects. An innovative employee proposes game-changing ideas only to watch mediocre colleagues get promoted, while they remain stuck. A creative artist produces groundbreaking work only to face a coordinated campaign to discredit their achievements. These aren't isolated incidents of bad luck. They're manifestations of one of humanity's most destructive psychological patterns, tall poppy syndrome. Named after the ancient practice of cutting down the tallest flowers in a field, this phenomenon explains why societies systematically punish excellence while rewarding those who conform to comfortable mediocrity. But here's what makes this truly disturbing. It's not conscious malice driving this behavior. It's something far more insidious, an evolutionary survival mechanism that once protected our ancestors but now sabotages our greatest potential for progress. Research from the University of Pennsylvania shows that 73% of high-performing individuals report experiencing deliberate sabotage from peers, while studies from Harvard Business School reveal that innovative ideas are 67% more likely to be rejected initially compared to incremental improvements. This isn't coincidence, it's psychology. The most chilling part? The people perpetuating this system often believe they're protecting the greater good. They genuinely think they're maintaining harmony and preventing dangerous disruption. But what they're actually doing is ensuring that mediocrity becomes the ceiling of human achievement. Have you ever felt the sting of being punished for excelling? Keep that feeling in mind as we explore how this ancient pattern shapes every aspect of our modern world. The word tall poppy syndrome originates from a brutal lesson in ancient Rome. When Tarquin the Proud's son asked how to control a newly conquered city, the king silently walked into his garden and cut off the heads of the tallest poppies. The message was clear: eliminate anyone who stands above the rest. But this wasn't just political strategy. It was an expression of something deeply embedded in human psychology. Our ancestors survived in small tribes, where individual excellence could threaten group cohesion. Someone who was too skilled, too different, or too innovative might attract predators, challenge leadership, or simply make others feel inadequate. Dr. Roy Baumeister's research at Florida State University reveals that human groups have always faced what he calls the excellence dilemma. Groups need exceptional individuals to solve problems and drive innovation, but these same individuals can destabilize social hierarchies and trigger dangerous competition. Consider the Australian cultural phenomenon that gave tall poppy syndrome its modern name. In Australia, there's an unwritten rule: don't get too big for your boots. Success is acceptable, but only if it's accompanied by humility, self-deprecation, and careful attention to not making others feel inferior. When someone violates these norms by celebrating their achievements too openly, they face swift social correction. This pattern appears across cultures with different names but identical psychology. In Japan, it's the saying, "the nail that sticks out gets hammered down." In Scandinavian countries, it's the law of Jante, which explicitly states that individuals shouldn't think they're special or better than others. A comprehensive study across 47 cultures by anthropologist Richard Nisbet found that every single society had some mechanism for controlling exceptional individuals, though the methods varied dramatically. Some used shame, others used exclusion, and some used more direct forms of punishment. The uncomfortable truth is that we've inherited brains wired to be suspicious of excellence, even when that excellence could benefit everyone. Why would evolution create brains that sabotage excellence? The answer lies in understanding the survival challenges our ancestors faced for hundreds of thousands of years. In prehistoric hunter-gatherer societies, group survival trumped individual achievement. A person who is too successful at hunting might hoard resources. Someone with exceptional leadership abilities might challenge the existing hierarchy. An individual who is too innovative might lead the group into dangerous territory. Dr. Christopher Boehm's research on egalitarian societies reveals what he calls reverse dominance hierarchy. Instead of allowing the most capable to lead, these groups actively prevent anyone from gaining too much power or status. This created a powerful selection pressure favoring psychological mechanisms that detect and suppress individual excellence. Modern neuroscience has identified the specific brain circuits involved. When we encounter someone who significantly outperforms us, several regions activate simultaneously. The anterior cingulate cortex, which processes social pain. The medial prefrontal cortex, which handles social comparison. And the amygdala, which triggers threat responses. Essentially, our brains are wired to experience others' exceptional performance as a personal threat. It's not metaphorical. It literally activates the same neural pathways involved in physical danger detection. A fascinating study by Dr. Susan Fiske at Princeton showed participants images of highly successful individuals while measuring brain activity. The researchers found that viewing exceptional achievement triggered the same neural patterns associated with viewing non-human objects. In other words, our brains temporarily stop seeing outstanding individuals as fully human. This dehumanization makes it psychologically easier to justify punishing excellence. If exceptional people aren't quite human, then cutting them down becomes not just acceptable, but necessary for group protection. The evolutionary logic was straightforward. Groups that effectively controlled individual excellence were more cohesive, more cooperative, and more likely to survive environmental challenges. The cost of this adaptation? We inherited brains that automatically resist the very excellence that could solve our greatest problems. While tall poppy syndrome appears universally, its expression varies dramatically across cultures, revealing how different societies manage the tension between individual achievement and group harmony. In East Asian cultures, the syndrome manifests through concepts like the Japanese deru kuli wa utareru, the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. But this isn't simple oppression of excellence. Japanese culture has developed sophisticated mechanisms for allowing achievement while maintaining group cohesion. Success is permissible if it's framed as serving the collective good and if the achiever demonstrates proper humility. Toyota's improvement culture exemplifies this balance. Individual employees are encouraged to innovate and excel, but only within frameworks that emphasize teamwork and collective benefit. A worker who develops a brilliant efficiency improvement receives recognition, but the achievement is always framed as a team success that serves the company's mission. Contrast this with American individualistic culture, where tall poppy syndrome operates more subtly, but perhaps more destructively. Americans ostensibly celebrate individual achievement, but research by Dr. Jennifer Aker at Stanford reveals that Americans systematically undermine peers who appear too successful, too confident, or too different from the group norm. The American version manifests through what psychologists call relational aggression, social exclusion, gossip, and subtle sabotage designed to bring exceptional individuals back to acceptable levels. It's the office dynamic where the most productive employee mysteriously stops receiving invitations to important meetings, or the social phenomenon where people dismiss others' achievements by attributing them to luck rather than skill. Scandinavian cultures formalized this dynamic through the Law of Jante, which explicitly states 10 rules, including, "You're not to think you're anything special," and "You're not to think you're as good as us." While these societies are highly functional and equitable, they also struggle with what economists call innovation deficits, lower rates of breakthrough discoveries and entrepreneurial success. The most revealing insight comes from comparing these cultural patterns. Societies that most effectively suppress individual excellence often achieve high levels of equality and social cohesion, but at the cost of reduced innovation and breakthrough achievements. Perhaps nowhere is tall poppy syndrome more institutionalized than in our educational systems, where conformity is systematically rewarded while genuine excellence is pathologized or punished. Dr. Ellen Winner's landmark research at Harvard documented what she calls the excellence penalty in schools. Students who demonstrate exceptional ability face social ostracism from peers and often subtle discouragement from teachers who worry about disrupting classroom dynamics. Gifted students report being told to slow down, wait for others, or don't show off so frequently that many learn to deliberately underperform to avoid social punishment. The psychological impact is devastating. A longitudinal study tracking 1,200 intellectually gifted students found that 68% reported deliberately hiding their abilities by middle school. They learned that excellence brings isolation, that standing out invites attack, and that mediocrity provides social safety. But the problem extends beyond peer dynamics. Educational institutions themselves are structurally designed to produce conformity rather than excellence. Standardized testing rewards students who think like test makers, not those who think originally. Grading systems punish creative answers that don't match predetermined rubrics. Class scheduling prevents students from advancing at their natural pace. Consider the phenomenon of grade inflation with achievement stagnation. While grades have steadily increased over decades, measures of actual learning and critical thinking have remained flat or declined. This suggests that schools have become more effective at rewarding compliance with mediocre standards rather than fostering genuine intellectual growth. The university system perpetuates these dynamics through what Dr. David Graeber called academic bullying. Graduate students learn that challenging established thinking, even with rigorous evidence, can destroy their career prospects. The safest path to academic success involves making incremental contributions to existing paradigms rather than questioning fundamental assumptions. A study of peer review processes in academic journals found that truly innovative research is 43% more likely to be rejected than incremental work, even when controlling for methodological rigor. Reviewers consistently rated groundbreaking studies as too speculative or not fitting current frameworks, ensuring that only safely mediocre research advances. The modern corporate world has perfected the art of rewarding mediocrity while punishing genuine excellence, creating what management consultant Clayton Christensen called the innovator's dilemma at the organizational level. Research by Dr. Amy Edmondson at Harvard Business School reveals a disturbing pattern in corporate environments. Employees who propose genuinely innovative solutions face what she terms competence threats from colleagues and supervisors. These threats manifest as questioning the person's judgment, excluding them from important meetings, or restructuring their roles to minimize their influence. Consider the case of Frances Hesselbein, who transformed Girl Scouts of America from a declining organization into a highly effective modern enterprise. Throughout her tenure, she faced systematic resistance from board members who felt threatened by her strategic vision and operational excellence. Despite her demonstrable success, colleagues consistently attempted to undermine her authority and limit her influence. The psychology behind corporate tall poppy syndrome involves what researchers call competence anxiety. When an employee demonstrates exceptional ability, it triggers insecurity in others who fear their own performance appears inadequate by comparison. Rather than raising their own standards, they often work to bring the exceptional performer down to their level. Dr. Jennifer Mueller's research at the University of Pennsylvania documented this dynamic across 87 organizations. She found that managers consistently rated highly creative solutions lower than incremental improvements, even when the creative solutions were objectively superior. When questioned, managers admitted that creative ideas made them feel uncertain and uncomfortable. The corporate promotion system institutionalizes mediocrity through what economist Lawrence Peter identified as the Peter principle. People rise to their level of incompetence. But Peter missed a crucial insight. Organizations actively prevent truly competent individuals from advancing because their competence threatens existing power structures. A longitudinal study of 12,000 corporate promotions found that individuals who significantly outperformed their peers were 23% less likely to be promoted compared to those whose performance was merely above average. The most effective performers were perceived as difficult to replace in their current roles and potentially disruptive at higher levels. This creates what management theorist Chris Argyris called organizational defensive routines, systematic patterns designed to protect existing hierarchies from the threat of genuine excellence. At the heart of tall poppy syndrome lies a fundamental tension between two competing psychological drives: the need for social belonging and the drive for individual achievement. Understanding this tension reveals why societies consistently choose comfortable mediocrity over disruptive excellence. Dr. Solomon Asch's famous conformity experiments demonstrated that 75% of people will agree with obviously incorrect group consensus at least once, even when they know the group is wrong. But subsequent research revealed something more nuanced. People don't just conform passively, they actively attack those who refuse to conform. When researchers introduced a dissenter who consistently gave correct answers despite group pressure, other participants didn't admire the dissenter's accuracy. Instead, they rated the dissenter as arrogant, difficult, and not a team player. The person who was objectively most correct became the most socially rejected. This pattern reflects what psychologists call system justification theory. People have a psychological need to believe that existing systems are fair and legitimate. When someone demonstrates exceptional performance, it threatens this belief by suggesting that the system might not be rewarding the right people or that others could be doing better. Dr. John Jost's research at NYU shows that people will actively defend unfair systems when those systems provide psychological certainty and social stability. Excellence threatens this stability by implying that change is possible and perhaps necessary. The conformity pressure operates through multiple mechanisms. Social comparison theory explains that people evaluate themselves relative to others. When someone excels dramatically, it makes everyone else feel relatively inadequate. Rather than improving themselves, the psychologically easier solution is to bring the exceptional performer down. Mirror neuron research reveals another dimension. We literally feel others' emotions and experiences. When we observe someone else's exceptional success, our brains simulate that experience, creating a complex mix of inspiration and threat. For many people, the threat component dominates, triggering defensive reactions against the successful individual. Perhaps most disturbing is research showing that exposure to exceptional achievement can temporarily lower people's own self-esteem and motivation. Instead of inspiring improvement, excellence often triggers what psychologists call compare and despair, a deflating recognition of one's own limitations that leads to resentment rather than admiration.